in this season as Nigeria prepares for yet another election in January 2027 is quite historic. Please, could you give yourselves a round of applause? I arrived to meet my sister from Côte d'Ivoire.
Yes.
My sister who eats amala more than me. My sister who is almost Nigerian.
Yes, I do love Nigeria.
It's okay. And that's why I wore a Côte d'Ivoire attire today.
Exactly.
I had to, because we had to meet at some point.
Sure.
And this is to tell us that when African women meet at a certain table and they do things together on the table of power, and they bring seats to the table, and they join tables to extend the table, Africa becomes the better for it. Your Excellencies, this is not setting the protocol, but before we go around to setting the protocol, permit me crave your indulgence that we all rise for the national anthem of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians old and proud to serve our sovereign
motherland. Thank you very much. And I think it will just be the right time to immerse you into the women's anthem of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. All across the nations, all around the world, women are longing to be free. No longer in the shadows, forced to stay behind, but side by side in true equality. So sing a song. I will sing a song. Everywhere, let it ring around the world and never, never cease. So sing a song for women everywhere. Equality, development, and peace. So sing a song. I will sing a song for women everywhere. Let it ring around the world and never, never cease. So sing, I will sing a song for women everywhere. Equality, development, and peace.
Bravo! I didn't know you also had singing as part of your competencies.
Thank
was
you
great.
very much. Please
take
have
a
your
seat.
seats.
Yes.
Your Excellencies, permit me say welcome to the Women's Political Leadership Forum West Africa, themed Accelerating Women's Political Participation and Leadership in West Africa. The UN Assistant Secretary General and UNDP Assistant Administrator and Director, Regional Bureau for Africa, not just West, who I'm sure is watching us live from somewhere, the Vice President of the ECOWAS Commission, the co-convener of the Africa Women Leaders Network, the Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the host minister, the Special Advisor to Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria on Policy and Coordination and Head of the Central Delivery Coordination Unit, Minister of Gender and Children's Affairs, Sierra Leone. Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection, Republic of Liberia. The President of the ECOWAS Female Parliamentarians Association. The Ireland Global Co-Chair and former Minister of Gender, Child and Family, Democratic Republic of Congo. The Director, Regional Program for Africa, UNDP. Your Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, not forgetting the members of the fourth estate of the realm, the members of the press, who will amplify this message arising from this convergence far and near. My name is Glory Uzamaka Mfoniso Ohago. I am an architect, I'm a narrative architect. I am a social engineer. I am a broadcast journalist. I'm a voice that amplifies women and gender issues. I carry the microphones at the first line. I follow my leaders and I tell the stories of bravery, of resilience, of persistence. I do it as a content distiller and as a voice for women, girls, children, and humanity.
Give a round of applause for my co-moderator. Truly an amazing sister. I'm also going to introduce myself. I'm Hafou Touré from Côte d'Ivoire. I'll be your co-moderator today of my dear sister Glory. And it's a real pleasure to be with you today. I have to say, this is not my main job. I'm a development finance expert. But today I'm here in my capacity as the private sector, as the co-chair of the Private Sector Coalition of the African Women Leaders Network, which is one of our conveners today. And it's important for me to set the stage for what we are about to witness today. First, I want to acknowledge all of the powerful coalition of institutions behind a single goal today. First, we have the ECOWAS Commission, the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, our host country, the African Union, the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, and the African Women Leaders Program. Please clap your hand for all of these conveners today. This partnership on this stage itself is a statement that accelerating women's political leadership is not the agenda of one institution, but a shared regional imperative that we should all be working toward. And the numbers tell us why this is an urgency. Across Africa, women hold 27% of parliamentary seats, 9% of political party leadership, and 24% of cabinet posts. But when they're planning marches, who do they call on? Women.
Women.
But when it's time to lead, we're in the back, and that is not what it should be. And we know that very few countries have been able to pass these numbers. We are below global average, and only Rwanda has been able to cross the 50% threshold for gender parity in parliament. We need to make these numbers move. And that is why this session matters. Because closing this gap requires the same tool we use in development finance. De-risking the process for women, building sustainable systems, and reaching the women who are ready to lead. And I'm sure we're all ready to lead here, right? Clap if you're ready to lead. Great. So we're ready. And ladies and gentlemen, over the course of this morning, we will move from commitments to action. We'll hear from leaders who have shaped policies, political leaders who have lived this struggle, and by the end of this session, our ambition is clear: to live with concrete, financeable, because money is important, and implementable pathways toward the ECOWAS 2035 gender parity goal. And now it's my honor to pass it back to my dear co-moderator so we can get our first speaker on the stage. Thank you.
And talking about financing, just yesterday at the launch of the Guarantee Her, the Honorable Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development of the Federal Republic of Nigeria reminded financial institutions that women are more likely to pay back their loans than men. And if there is no other reason to give this money to women, this is the reason, because women are no longer the risks. They should be the reason why economy booms. So please, let's clap for her. As we set the stage for this particular forum, which has all of us here, permit me to welcome the very first speaker who represents the United Nations Development Program, a key partner supporting democratic governance, inclusive institutions, and sustainable development across Africa. He serves as the Director of Regional Program for Africa, where he contributes to advancing regional initiatives that supports governance, peace, development, and partnerships across the continent. His work so far reflects UNDP's commitment to strengthening institutions and supporting approaches that enable inclusive participation in decision-making. In Nigeria, we would call him a chronic, unrepentant he for she. Join me welcome Dr. Jide Okeke.
Please clap for him. He's one of the few men here, so please continue to accompany him with your applause.
Women, let all the hands come together.
Yes.
Good morning. On a day like this, I'm reminded of my mother. I'm sure she's probably not here. She's not listening to me today. But she decided to work incredibly hard. Olabisi Titilayo Okeke. It's such a privilege to be mothered by her. And sent me to good schools. And she would always say something in Yoruba for those that do not know how to speak Yoruba. The school that I decided not to go to, you would help me go to that school. And so I stand here today as somebody who is indebted to my mother. And it's remarkable that we are having a conversation today, because when I think about women leadership, it's clear that women make leaders. Women are also leaders. And more women would lead to peace, stability, and development on the African continent. Now, let me read my speech.
De rendre un hommage particulier à l'honorable Adja Maïmonatou Ibrahima, présidente du Parlement de la CEDEAO, dont le leadership continue de renforcer la démocratie parlementaire, l'intégration régionale et la participation des femmes à la vie publique. Son engagement constant constitue une sorte d'inspiration pour l'ensemble des femmes parlementaires de notre communauté. Je voudrais aussi saluer son Excellence, Madame Damtien Larbi Tchantidiba, vice-présidente de la commission de la CEDEAO, dont l'initiative, l'héritage, Legacy Initiative, à l'engagement, a largement contribué à nous conduire à ce moment important. Je suis d'autant plus émue quand je le dis, parce que c'est notre avenir qui en dépend. C'est nos enfants, nos jeunes sœurs qui vont vouloir partir dans l'étape de la vie publique. Et donc, je suis vraiment émue quand je cite son nom, parce que c'est la ardente guerrière et combattante de ce projet-là. Merci beaucoup. À travers cette initiative, vous nous avez rappelé une vérité essentielle. Le leadership ne se mesure pas uniquement à ce que nous accomplissons nous-mêmes, mais aussi à ce que nous transmettons à celles et ceux qui viendront après nous. Préparer la relève n'est pas un simple geste de générosité, c'est une responsabilité institutionnelle de chacune d'entre nous. Aucune institution ne peut durablement se renforcer si elle ne prépare pas les femmes et les hommes qui auront demain la responsabilité de poursuivre son œuvre. Je tiens également à féliciter le département du développement humain et des affaires sociales de la commission de la CEDEAO sous la direction de l'honorable professeur Fatou Sarr Sow pour son engagement constant en faveur du renforcement de la participation et du leadership politique des femmes dans notre région. Je souhaite enfin saluer le leadership continental de son Excellence, Madame Bineta Diop, dont l'engagement de longue date en faveur de la promotion des femmes africaines demeure une référence et une source d'inspiration pour notre continent. À tous, nos distingués participants, venus des États membres de la CEDEAO, des institutions régionales, des organisations internationales, du monde universitaire, de la société civile et du secteur privé, je souhaite la plus chaleureuse des bienvenues. Votre présence illustre notre volonté commune de faire progresser le leadership politique des femmes et de construire ensemble une gouvernance plus inclusive au service de nos peuples. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, l'adoption de la déclaration présidentielle sur la parité marque l'ouverture d'un nouveau chapitre pour notre communauté. Elle constitue un engagement politique fort de nos chefs d'État et de gouvernement. Elle constitue un engagement politique fort de nos chefs d'État et de gouvernement, je le répète 2 fois, parce qu'ils sont avec nous. Mais une déclaration, aussi ambitieuse soit-elle, n'est jamais une fin en soi. Elle est un point de départ, elle nous fixe un cap. Il nous appartient désormais de lui donner une vie à travers des politiques publiques, des réformes législatives, des institutions plus fortes et des résultats mesurables dans chacun de nos États membres. Le thème que notre forum résume parfaitement cette responsabilité collective des engagements à l'action, et je voudrais y ajouter une ambition supplémentaire, des engagements aux résultats. Car c'est à l'aune des résultats que nos concitoyennes jugeront notre capacité à tenir les promesses que nous formulons aujourd'hui. Excellences, les responsabilités qui nous incombent est immense. Nous devons faire en sorte que les engagements continuent dans la déclaration présidentielle et que se traduisent par nos réformes concrètes, des institutions plus inclusives et des progrès visibles dans la représentation, la participation et le leadership politique des femmes dans l'ensemble de notre espace communautaire. Pour ECOFEPA, il ne s'agit pas d'une initiative régionale parmi d'autres. Cette ambition est au cœur même de notre mission. Notre association occupe une position singulière à l'interface entre les engagements régionaux et la mise en œuvre dans chacune de nos États membres. Parce que nous réunissons les femmes parlementaires de toute la communauté, nous avons la responsabilité de faire le lien entre la vision portée par le niveau régional et la réalité nationale. Notre rôle est donc d'accompagner la transformation des engagements politiques en lois, des lois en politique publique, des politiques publiques en actions concrètes et des actions en résultats tangibles pour les femmes de notre région. C'est cette responsabilité que ECOFEPA entend pleinement assumer. Nous poursuivons notre plaidoyer en faveur des réformes législatives et institutionnelles nécessaires pour garantir aux femmes une participation pleine, effective et durable à la vie politique et à l'exercice des responsabilités publiques. Mais notre mission ne s'arrête pas à l'adoption des lois. Elle consiste également à préparer l'avenir. ECOFEPA doit contribuer à identifier, accompagner et former, soutenir la prochaine génération des femmes leaders. Nous avons nous-mêmes parcouru ce chemin. Nous connaissons les difficultés, les obstacles, les résistances, mais aussi les opportunités qu'offre l'engagement public. Nous savons combien le mentorat, le partage d'expériences, la solidarité et la confiance peuvent transformer un parcours. C'est pourquoi nous devons investir davantage dans celles qui viendront après nous. Nous devons partager notre expérience. Nous devons ouvrir nos réseaux. Nous devons transmettre nos connaissances. Nous devons accompagner les jeunes femmes dans les partis politiques, dans les campagnes électorales, dans les institutions publiques et tout au long de leur parcours de leadership. C'est ce que nous avons eu et que nous devons transmettre. Le mentorat ne peut être occasionnel ni informel. Il doit devenir un pilier délibéré, un engagement structuré et durable de la contribution de ECOFEPA à la mise en œuvre de la déclaration de leadership des femmes, assumer des responsabilités, des mentorats et qui poursuivent cette œuvre de demain. Si nous veillons constamment à élargir le vivrier, des femmes préparées à accompagner et prêtes à assumer ces responsabilités-là. Je voudrais enfin m'adresser directement aux jeunes femmes de notre communauté qui aspirent à exercer des responsabilités de leadership. Ce n'est pas facile, mais c'est réalisable puisque nous sommes toutes là. Donc vous pouvez le faire. D'abord et avant tout, croyez en vous. Préparez-vous, formez-vous, travaillez avec rigueur, dirigez avec intégrité. N'attendez pas que quelqu'un vous dise que votre place existe. Préparez-vous à l'occuper, car elle est la vôtre. Le leadership commence bien avant l'exercice d'une fonction publique. Il commence le jour où l'on décide de servir. Excellences, distingués invités, mesdames et messieurs, au nom de l'Association des femmes parlementaires de la CEDEAO, je vous renouvelle nos plus chaleureuses salutations de bienvenue. Je forme le vœu que ce forum soit un moment d'écoute, de dialogue, d'engagement et surtout de décision. Que nous quittons Abuja avec une feuille de route claire, des responsabilités partagées et une volonté renouvelée de transformer nos engagements en un progrès durable pour les femmes et les filles de notre communauté. Je vous remercie de votre aimable attention. Merci. Thank you very much. Obrigado.
Because the world can wait for women to come to the stage and leave the stage. Please, a round of applause for Mam Chantal. A very beautiful speech there, a very inspiring speech, a speech reawakening the continent of Africa and the world to arise and make room for the women of Africa. Our next speaker is a distinguished leader within the African Women Leaders Network. She serves as the global co-chair of the African Women Leaders Network, and is a former Minister of Gender, Child and Family of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Through her public service and leadership within OLIN, she continues to support efforts to strengthen women's representation, leadership, and participation in decision-making tables across Africa. But before our next speaker comes on, Your Excellencies, permit me to crave your indulgence to take just a moment to ask everyone who has an empty seat in front of you to step forward. Take your place. That seat is for you. Please, could you move forward? Our news camera optics do not look good with empty chairs. Please, could you move forward to the empty seat in front of you? From the row where, yes, please. Just there. Keep moving forward. Thank you. Thank you very much for obliging me. Thank you very much. That seat is for you. If not you, then who? Ladies, please, if you still have an empty seat in front of you, fill up that seat. Don't we love the sisterhood? Don't you love it when you feel your sister beside you? I love it. I love it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Please, a round of applause for yourselves. And so, the next voice of impact you're going to hear is the Arlen Global Co-Chair and a former Minister of Gender, Child and Family of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Please join me welcome with a resonating round of applause, Marie Louis Mwange. Please, shall we clap? Let's give her that welcome.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Je voudrais dire merci et vous signaler que le mot que je prononce tout à l'heure, ce n'est pas mon mot, c'est au nom de Madame Binta Diop, qui sera avec nous d'ici là et qui m'a demandé de livrer ce mot à votre intention. Merci beaucoup. Madame la vice-présidente de la commission de la CEDEAO, Madame la ministre des Affaires féminines de la République fédérale du Nigeria, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres et membres du gouvernement, Mesdames et Messieurs les représentants de l'Union africaine, de la CEDEAO, des Nations unies et des partenaires au développement, honorables députés, chers invités, bonjour. C'est un grand honneur et un privilège d'être parmi vous aujourd'hui à Abuja pour cet important forum sur le leadership politique des femmes. Permettez-moi tout d'abord d'exprimer ma sincère gratitude au gouvernement et au peuple de la République fédérale du Nigeria pour leur accueil chaleureux. Madame la ministre, soyez notre interlocutrice auprès de votre gouvernement et transmettez-leur nos vœux les plus sincères de remerciement. Je tiens aussi à féliciter nos partenaires, la Commission de la CEDEAO et le Programme des Nations Unies pour le développement PNUD pour leur précieux engagement en faveur de la promotion du leadership politique des femmes dans notre région. Ce forum se tient à un moment décisif pour l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Dans toute la région, nous assistons à des transitions démocratiques, à des réformes constitutionnelles, à des processus électoraux et à un regain d'aspiration à la paix, à la stabilité et à une gouvernance inclusive. Ces moments présentent non seulement des défis importants, mais aussi des opportunités pour redéfinir le leadership politique pour les générations futures. Pourtant, malgré les décennies d'engagement des femmes, restent sous-représentées au sein des institutions où se prennent les décisions concernant nos sociétés. Aujourd'hui, elle n'occupe qu'une infime partie des sièges parlementaires en Afrique de l'Ouest, tandis que des obstacles tels que la violence politique, le coût croissant des élections, les structures partisanes discriminatoires et les formes de harcèlement en ligne de plus en plus sophistiquées continuent de décourager leur participation à la vie publique. La question qui se pose n'est donc plus de savoir si les femmes doivent diriger. L'Afrique a déjà répondu à cette question. La véritable question est de savoir si nos systèmes politiques sont prêts à créer les conditions permettant aux femmes non seulement de participer, mais aussi de rivaliser, d'influencer et de diriger. C'est précisément la raison de notre présence ici aujourd'hui à Abuja. Le réseau des femmes leaders africaines a été fondé sur la conviction qu'une paix durable, une gouvernance démocratique et un développement inclusif ne peuvent être atteints sans la participation égale des femmes à tous les niveaux de décision. Nous avons œuvré sur tout le continent pour renforcer le leadership féminin, favoriser la solidarité intergénérationnelle, nouer des partenariats stratégiques et accompagner les femmes, de l'activisme de base aux plus hautes fonctions de l'État, par le biais du pilier gouvernance et participation politique de Aoline. Nous nous efforçons de dépasser le simple plaidoyer pour parvenir à un changement institutionnel concret. Pour ce faire, nous soutenons les femmes dirigeantes, les femmes leaders, renforçons les écosystèmes politiques et multiplions les occasions pour les femmes et les jeunes de participer pleinement à la prise de décision. Dans le cadre de cet engagement, Aoline se prépare à lancer l'Académie africaine du leadership féminin, une plateforme continentale conçue pour doter les femmes dirigeantes, actuelles et futures, des connaissances, des compétences, du mentorat et des réseaux stratégiques nécessaires pour s'orienter vers le leadership politique, la gouvernance, la fonction publique et la consolidation de la paix. L'Académie servira de catalyseur pour former une nouvelle génération de femmes dirigeantes africaines transformatrices, prêtes non seulement à accéder à des postes de responsabilité, mais aussi à façonner des politiques et des institutions plus inclusives, responsables et à l'écoute des besoins de nos sociétés. Aujourd'hui, en collaboration avec la CEDEAO et le PNUD, nous franchissons une nouvelle étape importante. Ce forum n'a pas été convoqué dans le seul but d'échanger des expériences. Il a été convoqué afin d'accélérer la mise en œuvre, pour identifier des réformes concrètes, mobiliser la volonté politique, renforcer la coopération régionale et en définitive transformer nos changements collectifs en résultats concrets pour les femmes de toute l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Au cours des 2 prochains jours, nos discussions porteront sur certains défis les plus urgents auxquels sont confrontées les femmes en politique. La réforme des partis politiques, la participation électorale, le financement des campagnes, la sécurité numérique, le leadership de jeunes femmes, la solidarité régionale et l'action collective. Plus encore, ces échanges aboutiront à l'adoption du programme d'action régional d'Abuja, qui fournira une feuille de route pratique pour accélérer le progrès vers la vision 2035 de la CEDEAO en matière de parité hommes-femmes. Excellence, l'histoire nous rappelle que le progrès ne s'est jamais fait par de simples déclarations. Il a toujours exigé un leadership politique courageux, un leadership prêt à remettre en question les systèmes en place, un leadership qui investit dans les femmes et les jeunes femmes, un leadership qui comprend que l'égalité des sexes n'est pas simplement une aspiration sociale, mais un impératif démocratique et un investissement stratégique pour la paix, la prospérité et les institutions résilientes. Alors que nous célébrons le 50e anniversaire de la CEDEAO, que ce forum devienne une nouvelle étape marquante dans le cheminement de notre région vers une gouvernance plus inclusive. Le chemin de la région vers une gouvernance inclusive. Faisons en sorte que les générations futures se souviennent d'Abuja, non seulement comme un lieu de notre rencontre, mais aussi comme le lieu où nous avons collectivement décidé de passer des promesses à la réalisation et à des engagements aux actes. Je souhaite à tous des fructueuses délibérations et des résultats concrets. Je vous remercie.
Please continue with your applause for Maman Marie-Louise. That's how I like to call her. Okay, so we're almost through the end. We have our final speaker today for the introduction, who represents the host country, Her Excellency Honorable Iman Suleiman Ibrahim. She serves as Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, where she leads national efforts focused on advancing women's empowerment, social development, and inclusive policy. As host country minister, her participation reflects Nigeria's commitment to strengthening regional dialogue and action on women's leadership and participation. Please put your hands together for the Minister of Women Affairs of Nigeria.
Thank you very much. May I start by recognizing Her Excellency Senator Dr. Chantal Fani, the President of the ECOWAS Female Parliamentarians Association. May I also recognize Her Excellency Danti Chanchi Bija. I got it. The Vice President of the ECOWAS Commission. May I also respectfully recognize my colleague from Sierra Leone, my sister Aissa Chamoy. Over the past few years, we've grown to become sisters, not just colleagues. May I also recognize Honorable Bemi Koli, my colleague from Liberia, Minister for Gender, Children, and Social Protection. Welcome to Nigeria, Bemi. May I recognize also the co-conveners of this program, Benita Diop, co-convener African Women Leaders Network. May I recognize her partner at the Aulin, Maria Louise Mwanji, also a co-chair and a former minister from the Democratic Republic of Congo. May I recognize the he for she in this room, Jide Okeke, Director of Regional Programs for the UNDP. May I recognize my dear sister. For some people, she's the head girl. For me, she's my role model. Hajia Hadiza Bala Usman, SA to Mr. President on Policy and Coordination. May I recognize my mentor from Harvard, Her Excellency Kolbari, the former Minister for Economy, Finance, Development, and Foreign Affairs from Burkina Faso. Thank you so much for your mentoring. Thank you for all the support that you give me on this role. May I recognize all distinguished delegates from all other West African countries. I would like to also recognize Her Excellency Iwerelu Bisifayemi, former First Lady of Ekiti State, one of my mentors as well. I recognize you. She's done a lot for gender in Nigeria. May I recognize all members of civil society. May I recognize all women leaders of their respective groups. May I recognize all invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Great African women. Welcome to Abuja, the capital of Nigeria, one of the most beautiful cities in the world. I'm sure you all agree. And I hope you're enjoying our hospitality, because Nigerians are the most hospitable people that I know. It is my singular honor, on behalf of the Federal Government of Nigeria and the good people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to warmly welcome you to Abuja for this high-level Women's Political Leadership Forum. Your presence is a powerful affirmation that women's political leadership is no longer simply a matter of representation. It's a strategic imperative for democratic consolidation. Inclusive governance, peace, security, sustainable development across Africa. May I commend African Women's Leaders Network, the AULIN, the ECOWAS, UNDP, and all our esteemed partners for convening this timely dialogue. This forum comes at a defining moment in our regional journey. As ECOWAS celebrates 50 years of regional integration, we must also confront an enduring reality. Although women constitute over 50% of West African population, their representation in political decision-making remains disproportionately low, with the regional average of women in national parliament still below 20. Against this backdrop, this forum provides a strategic platform to translate the Presidential Declaration on Gender Parity in political representation from aspiration into measurable action, making gender-responsive leadership a defining legacy of the ECOWAS at 50. Nigeria approaches this responsibility with deliberate institutional resolve. We're concluding the end-term review of our National Gender Policy 2021-2026 while laying the foundation of a third-generation national gender policy that responds to the emerging national realities. Central to this transition remains our unwavering commitment to the minimum 35% affirmative action benchmark for women's participation in governance and political party structures. Complementing this effort, our third-generation National Action Plan under United Security Council Resolution 1325, now domesticated across 16 states, continues to strengthen women's leadership in peace building, conflict prevention, and security governance. These reforms are further reinforced by the renewed hope agenda of His Excellency, Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, and the Nigerians' Declaration of 2026 as the year of families and social development. This recognizes that the family remains the first institution of leadership, citizenship, and national values. When women lead, families thrive. When families thrive, societies prosper. This philosophy is reflected in our social protection architecture, where women account for over 70% of beneficiaries of major national social investment programs and economic empowerment initiatives, demonstrating that investing in women delivers measurable returns for households, for our communities, and for our national development. Ladies and gentlemen, at the subnational level, we're witnessing encouraging and transformative progress that dispels any negative narrative around stagnation. States such as Kwara and Ekiti have already exceeded the 35% affirmative action benchmark in key areas of governance and political inclusion. Thank you. Demonstrating that deliberate policy commitments yields measurable results. This growing momentum across progressive states reflects a shifting landscape where gender inclusion is increasingly being institutionalized rather than treated as an exception. And it underscores the importance of scaling these best practices nationwide to ensure that every state aligns with the national aspiration for equitable representation. Encouragingly, the trajectory is more positive within the appointive leadership. Under the renewed hope administration of His Excellency, Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, women currently constitute approximately 17 to 20% of the Federal Executive Council, while occupying over 30% of senior management positions across federal civil service. Significantly, since 2015, Nigeria has consistently entrusted the office of the head of civil service of the Federation to distinguish women, affirming the confidence reposed in women's competence, integrity, and administrative leadership. Similarly, dear delegates, progress is evident across the judiciary, where women now constitute approximately 1/3 of judges in Nigeria, Nigerian superior courts of record, and are increasingly leading key judicial, regulatory, and professional institutions. Overall, women make up about 33% of judiciary in Nigeria, reflecting a steady advancement and the gradual dismantling of long-standing structural barriers within the justice system. I'm pleased to note that the Solicitor General of the Federation, the Chief Justice of Nigeria, the President of the Court of Appeal, the Director General of the Nigerian Law School, and the most recently President of the Nigerian Bar Association are all women. These landmark appointments provide compelling evidence that women continue to excel when entrusted with leadership responsibilities and serve as a powerful reminder that merit, when allowed, prevails, no gender. Progress is equally evident within our security architecture, where barriers continue to fall through the appointment of women into strategic leadership positions across the armed forces, the Nigerian police force, the intelligence agencies, and paramilitary services. This milestone reinforces a simple truth. When opportunities are deliberately created, women consistently excel. It may also interest you to note that the current head of the Nigerian Immigration Service is a woman. Nigeria has equally recorded the appointment of its very first female Deputy Director General within the intelligence community. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, political leadership must also rest on a strong foundation of economic empowerment. Nigeria's National Women's Economic Empowerment Policy of 2023-2028 estimates that closing the gender gap in economic participation could contribute a whopping $229 billion to Nigerians' gross domestic product. This vision being advanced through the $540 million investment of the Nigerian for Women Scale-Up program, supported by the World Bank in collaboration with the subnationals, which targets a minimum of 5 million women directly and estimated 25 million Nigerians indirectly. Already, over 460,000 women have been organized into a more structured collective group and have collectively mobilized over 4.4 billion of their own money, demonstrating that economically empowering women becomes stronger civic and political actors. This expanding economic agency is now translating into the unprecedented political mobilization. Earlier this year, women from 774 local government areas of Nigeria united under the banner of the power of 10 million, one voice, one movement, one choice. Organized across Nigeria's 8,809 electoral wards, this movement seeks to mobilize more than 10.5 million women into a coordinated national constituency for democratic participation. Through the presentation of the Nigerian Women's Charter for National Development, Nigerian women declared their readiness to not merely vote, but to shape policies, to influence governors, and to define the nation's future. The same leadership capacity is equally reflected within Nigeria's corporate sector. Currently, women lead 11 out of 24 Nigerian commercial banks, representing approximately 45.8% of banking chief executives. Thank you very much. While occupying more than 31% of corporate board seats nationwide. At the Central Bank of Nigeria, women constitute to hold strategic executive positions, including 25% of deputy governor's position. This achievement demonstrates that whatever institutional barrier are lowered and merit is allowed to flourish, women lead with excellence, innovation, and measurable results. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the evidence before us is compelling. Across Africa, the continent does not suffer from deficit of capable women. It continues to contend with structural barriers that limit opportunities. While the global average of women's representation in national parliament has risen to approximately 27%, Africans' representation in many countries remains significantly below the benchmark, with persistent gap in both legislative and executive leadership. Our task over the next 2 days is to therefore set clear to transform political commitments into enforceable legislation, strengthen affirmative action frameworks, expand financing for women candidates, deepen regional collaboration and establish accountability mechanisms that will accelerate gender parity across ECOWAS and the African continent. But foundation and movements are not enough on their own. So permit me to move this forum from diagnosis to prescriptions with 7 concrete proposals I recommend we carefully consider. Firstly, and most concretely, let us consider to establish a Women's Political Leadership Trust Fund. If the cost of entry is the barrier, then we must build a bridge. I propose a dedicated, professionally managed financing facility to defray nomination fees, campaign costs, capacity building for credible candidates. We have blended finance instruments to strengthen women's businesses. It is time we build one to support women's candidacy. Secondly, we may wish to convert the 35% benchmark from an aspiration into an enforceable commitment. And let us be clear that 35% is a floor, not a ceiling. A region whose population is more than half women, in an ideal world, should be more than half its representation held by women. 35% is not destination, it's a fair and realistic place to begin the journey towards parity. But even that floor will not be reached by goodwill. Political parties must carry the greatest share of responsibility. It is the parties that draw the candidate list, and therefore the parties must commit to ensuring their candidature list meets the minimum gender threshold before their lists are submitted to INEC. May I urge our electoral frameworks should consider the empowerment of electoral bodies such as INEC to be able to ensure that this becomes a reality. Thirdly, let us forge a standing alliance between civil society and women already in office. Too often, our advocates and our office holders work in separate rooms. I propose a formal ECOWAS Women's Leadership Compact that pairs civil society organizations, which supplies research and mobilization, and public pressure with 7 women legislators and appointees who supply access to the chambers where laws are actually passed. Advocacy outside the building and power inside it must stop operating as strangers. CSOs and politicians must work so that aspiration meets reality. Fourth, and this is a call I direct to women ourselves. Let us resolve to support one another at the ballot. We must be honest in this room. Part of the answer lies not only with the parties and institutions, but with us. Too often, when a competent woman with a proven track record appears on the ballot, she does not receive the block of support from women voters that her record deserves. We are almost half of the registered voters in Nigeria. That is a decisive electoral force wherever we choose to act as one. Let us ask ourselves plainly, why do women not more consistently vote for women who have demonstrated capacity and integrity? Solidarity at the ballot box is not favoritism, it's a strategy. And if we will not stand behind our own most qualified daughters, we cannot expect other people to stand behind them. The fifth is we build a pipeline deliberately, not by chance. I propose that a regional women's leadership academy, like the one in Rwanda, to identify and prepare women at the ward, local government levels, where political careers genuinely begin, so that we never again told that there are no qualified women. We will have them prepared themselves from the onsets and in thousands. The sixth is to rejuvenate the women's movement so that we can continue to speak with one voice. In Nigeria, we have the voting bloc, and that is enough for us to negotiate. The seventh is to continue to cultivate positive masculinity. You heard one Jide spoke, and that is the story of many, many men. They were either raised single-handedly by women, or they were a key influence in their lives. And if we put them as co-owners of this agenda, then we can be able to record more outcomes. As I conclude, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as this conversation concludes in the next few days, let us remember that history is shaped not merely by those who gather to discuss change, but by those who summon the courage to institutionalize it. Let this forum mark a turning point where evidence informs policy, partnership drives progress, and political will delivers measurable outcomes for the women and girls on our region. Together, let's build a West Africa where every woman has an equal opportunity to lead. Every democracy benefits from a full strength of its people, and every nation prospers because it has chosen to be inclusive than exclusive. I thank you for the kind attention. I wish us all a fruitful deliberation and a productive and impactful outcome. Enjoy the rest of your time in Abuja. May God bless you all. Thank you.
Many reasons she is called the Magnificent Iman. Please, shall we give a round of applause to Nigeria's Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development, Honorable Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, FSI, a sister's keeper, a believer in humanity, a voice for women. And since her emergence as the Minister of Women Affairs, a lot has changed positively in Nigeria's gender space. Please keep that applause coming. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Thank you for reminding us that 35% should be the threshold to start, and not just the benchmark that we believe in. And that's the message African women are taking back wherever they go to for their conversations on the table of leadership. Thank you to all our distinguished speakers for your inspiring welcome remarks and for reaffirming the importance of collective action in advancing women's political leadership across West Africa. Please, shall we give all our speakers a round of applause? All right, Your Excellencies, it is now time to hear from the voice of the future. One of the things the children of Nigeria did ask for when they visited the Honorable Minister, they asked her, why can't we have a Ministry of Children's Affairs with a child as the minister? Because Nigerian children are saying that anything done without us is against us and it's not for us. And mothers of Africa, African women have understood that importance. And that's why we're going to hear the voice of an African child who is going to enthrall us and send a message through poetry and storytelling, which have long served as powerful tools for expressing hope, challenging barriers, and imagining new possibilities. Our next voice reflects the journeys of women leaders across West Africa, their resilience, their contributions, and aspirations for a more inclusive continent of Africa. Please join me welcome the voice of the future, the Zara Source Zara. Join me welcome spoken word artist Fatima Zara Abdullahi. Please, let's make her feel welcome.
This morning, I would like you to say to yourself, I am beautiful and industrious. Good morning, everyone. My name is Fatima Zara Abdullahi, and I am a spoken word poet. Those who say women are powerless do not know what it feels like to have an African mother. Women who will give you one paragraph instruction by just batting their eyes. I learned from my mother that a woman is a storm as well as a soft breeze. God wanted to show the world what strength and resilience look like. So he made women, scattered them around the world, and planted them in the midst of chaos, so that growth can teach us that new beginning is a beautiful thing. Women like Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, who nurtured Liberia out of civil war. Women like Hajia Gambo Soaba, who carried the pain of generation so we all can have a place at the seat of power. Women like Amina J. Mohammed, an epitome of excellence and progress, who is showing the world that sometimes what a man can do, a woman can do even better. Women like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who teach us that we should never put a limitation on our ambitions. Women like Alhani Islam, who turned a poem into a manifesto for a better future. Your big heart is the reason dreams can find place here. And look how far you have come, breaking stereotypes and changing the status quo. There was a time when education of a girl only ends in the kitchen. But these days, women are cooking in the seats of power, making policies and leading the charge for change. Women are eating good and leaving no crumbs. You are proof that greatness has no gender bias, that anyone can be anything regardless of where they come from. And yes, the journey is far from over. We still need more women to make way for girls like me. More women as governors, more women as senators, more women as presidents, more women as directors and CEOs. Because the future is ours to be taken. And whenever a nation reaches for greatness, women will be there calling the shot. So today, my lovely and beautiful women, never forget that you're everything this world needs to be whole. Experiencing the best version of you is how we begin to climb to the top. Thank you.
For her, a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant spoken word artist. She's really the confirmation that the future is indeed very, very bright. Thank you very, very, very much. And it's so amazing to have a brilliant young girl come and speak to us about how powerful women are. We are going to now move to another keynote address by Her Excellency Miss Hauna Eziakonwa, who would have loved to be with us today, but she couldn't. So I'm going to ask the tech team to prepare her video. She's the UN Assistant Secretary General for UNDP and Assistant Administrator and Director for the Regional Bureau for Africa. Please now project her video and her keynote message. Can we check for the sound and start over, please?
It's such a pleasure to be able to address you at this, I think, really important moment for women's political leadership in West Africa. You know, this continent, Africa, has no shortage of women with the ability, the ambition, the resolve, and the commitment to lead. Yet I think too many women continue to really face entrenched financial, institutional, social, and indeed cultural barriers that limit their entry into political life and constrain their influence once they actually attain office. And across Africa, we know that women hold only 27% of parliamentary seats, 9% of political party leadership positions, just 13% of senior executive positions, 24% of cabinet posts, and 25% of local government seats. That's simply not enough. This exclusion has consequences for society as a whole, greater representation of women in political leadership is associated with stronger democratic legitimacy, but also more inclusive policies, improved peace, and also development outcomes. Our task is really not to ask women to adapt to the unequal political systems that they face, but really to transform those systems. It is in response to this challenge that UNDP, in partnership with the African Women Leaders Network and the African Union, established the African Facility for Women in Political Leadership. Through the facility, we are preparing to launch, actually this month, the African Academy for Women's Political Leadership in Kigali. The inaugural cohort will bring together 40 exceptional women from 28 African countries and the Caribbean. The idea is to equip them with the leadership skills, the strategic networks, and the influence that they need to shape policies and decisions that are driving the continent's development. In line with this commitment, UNDP will also support the African Union Commission in developing guidelines to address the financial barriers to women's political participation. We want to build on the outcomes of the ECOWAS Ministerial Meeting on Gender, which was co-hosted earlier this year alongside the Commission on the Status of Women. Together with the African Young Women Leaders Fellowship Program, which has actually supported about 95 young women from Africa across the continent. These initiatives that we're discussing are strengthening a pipeline of women leaders at every stage of their leadership journey. This forum today must now translate that continental ambition into practical action in West Africa. It needs to build on the momentum that was generated by the ECOWAS Gender Parity Declaration, and congratulations to ECOWAS on that. The region is navigating elections, governance reforms, and of course, political transitions that are quite complex. And these will shape the democratic trajectory of the region for decades to come. Our objective is really quite concrete. By the close of this dialogue, we must have an actionable plan to address all of these challenges, the financial, the institutional, the social, the cultural, and of course the digital barriers to women's political participation. Achieving gender parity requires men as well. It requires them to recognize that women's political leadership is not a concession, but essential to stronger democracy, and to act as genuine allies by challenging discrimination, sharing political space, and of course removing the barriers to women's leadership. I hope this forum becomes really that foundation for a lasting sisterhood, one that shares knowledge, opens doors, defends women that are facing intimidation and exclusion, and one that exercises collective influence across political parties, generations, and borders. Let it also mark a decisive shift from representation to influence, from isolated achievement to collective power, and from declarations to delivery. I want to assure you that UNDP stands ready to accompany you on this journey. Please continue to count on our partnership.
I think that is one of Nigeria's best daughters gifted to Africa and the world, and she deserves a better round of applause. My co-host has signaled that we would have to go for a little tea break, but not before we take your beautiful faces in framed memories before we go. Because when you take tea, something might leave the face. And we need to have it all put together. So permit me to have Madam President to lead the minister and members on the first row up for a group photograph, please. Madam President, lead the minister and all. This is a power photo, and Mr. Jide is going to be the topic in this photo. A great he for she. Shall we clap for him, please? Up? Yes, we're coming up. We're coming up, please. Up here. Madam President, my minister is looking out for you. Please, could you take one step back? One step. Thank you. Are we okay? Could we say women? 1, 2, 3, and we say women. Women o'clock in Africa. My Honorable Minister and Madam President, ma'am, as you go back to your seats, I have just been informed that before the tea, we have to take one more keynote speech. Forgive me there and forgive us for the mix. And this speech is a keynote which will represent regional institution at the center of West Africa's integration and collective action. The next voice we are going to hear provides leadership within the Commission's governance structures and contributes to advancing regional priorities, including integration, peace, security, development, and inclusive participation. Her role reflects ECOWAS's continued commitment to strengthening regional cooperation and advancing initiatives that support women's empowerment and gender equality. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies, and a few gentlemen, join me welcome Her Excellency Madametian Chinchimbidja. Please, a round of applause for her. Please clap for my sister.
Thank you very much for such a warm introduction. Thank you, ladies, gentlemen. Honorable Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Honorable Dr. Aissata Mahoy, Minister of Gender and Children's Affairs from Sierra Leone, Honorable Gbemi Horace Kohli, Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection from the Republic of Liberia, Her Excellency Mrs. Ahuna Izia Kunwa, who's just joined us virtually, UN Assistant Secretary General, UNDP, and the Director of the Regional Bureau for Africa, Her Excellency Dr. Chantal Fani, President of ECOFEPA, Senator of the Republic of Côte d'Ivoire, Her Excellency Madame Bineta Diop, co-convener of the African Women Leaders Network, AWLIN, our wonderful he for she, Mr. Jide Okiki, Director of the Regional Program for Africa at UNDP, honorable representatives of ministers of gender of all our member states, all women leaders, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today. There are moments in the life of a community when it has the opportunity to shape history. I believe this is one of those moments. Just days ago in Freetown, Sierra Leone, at the summit of the future of regional integration in West Africa, the authority of ECOWAS heads of state and government adopted the Presidential Declaration on strengthening the representation of women in political leadership in the ECOWAS region. The initiative was conceived as part of the legacy, the 50th anniversary celebration of ECOWAS, which we commemorated last year. It was intended to not only honor 5 decades of regional cooperation, but also to leave an enduring foundation for the next chapter of our community, one in which the leadership of our region more fully reflects the talents, experiences, and aspirations of all our people. In adopting the declaration, our leaders affirmed an important truth, that the strength of our democracies, the quality of our governance, and the future of our development depend on the ability of all citizens, women and men alike, to participate fully in shaping the destiny of our region. The adoption of both the Pact of the Future of Regional Integration and the Presidential Declaration demonstrated the intentionality of our leaders in charting a more inclusive and people-centered course for the future of our regional integration. The Pact of the Future provides the overarching framework for renewing and strengthening our community, while the Declaration gives practical expression to its commitment to inclusive governance. Both are firmly anchored in the aspirations of ECOWAS Vision 2050 and its promise of an ECOWAS of the people while ensuring peace and prosperity for all. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, across our region, democracy has continued to evolve. We have strengthened institutions, supported electoral processes, and deepened regional cooperation. These efforts have helped to establish ECOWAS as an important force for peace, stability, and democratic governance. Yet one significant challenge continues to prevent our democracies from fully reflecting the people they serve: the persistent underrepresentation of women in political leadership. Women constitute more than half of our population and make indispensable contributions across every sphere of society. They lead businesses, sustain families and communities, build peace, drive innovation, and contribute immeasurably to economic and social progress. Yet, their presence in the institutions and processes where decisions are made remain far below the scale of their contribution in public life. Today, women occupy only 18.5% of parliamentary seats across West Africa, and that number is even dropping, well below the African average of 25% and the global average of 26.5%. Several ECOWAS member states have demonstrated commendable leadership through legislative and policy reforms, including gender quotas and parity laws, aimed at opening political space and expanding opportunities for women's participation and leadership. These reforms mark important progress and offer valuable lessons for the region. However, progress remains uneven. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, strengthening women's political leadership is not only about correcting a long-standing imbalance. It is also central to the economic and social progress of our region. The International Monetary Fund estimates that closing the gender gap could increase economic output by 10 to 35%, depending on national circumstances. Behind those figures are real possibilities. The World Bank similarly estimates that countries lose approximately 14% of their human capital wealth when women are unable to fully participate in economic and public life. These findings reinforce what many of our communities already understand. Institutions become more responsive, economies more productive, and development more inclusive when we make full use of our human capital potential. This conviction lies at the heart of the Presidential Declaration. The Declaration provides a regional framework for action and calls for sustained engagement by member states, ECOWAS institutions, and all sectors of society. It calls upon member states to strengthen constitutional, legal, and policy frameworks that create an enabling environment for women's political participation and leadership. It encourages political parties to review their nomination processes, internal structures, and leadership practices so that women have genuine opportunities to compete for elected office and participate in decision-making within their parties. It calls for greater investment in leadership development, mentorship, capacity building, and networks of support for women seeking public office. It recognizes political financing as a major barrier and calls for measures that improve women's access to campaign resources and other forms of political support. It further emphasizes the need to address restrictive social norms through education, advocacy, and constructive engagement with civil society organizations, academia, and the media. Importantly, it envisages a central role for the ECOWAS Commission in supporting implementation through regional coordination, technical assistance, peer learning, the exchange of best practices, and mechanisms for monitoring progress. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, over the course of the next 2 days, we are called to rub minds over how to best move decisively from shared commitment to a practical and coordinated program of action. Each participant brings a distinct mandate, experience, and sphere of influence. The value of this forum will therefore rest on our ability to bring these different contributions together around a shared and sustained implementation agenda. As we begin this important endeavor, allow me to acknowledge those whose commitment and leadership made the Presidential Declaration a reality. I would like to express my profound appreciation to the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of States and Government for their vision in adopting the declaration and for demonstrating their commitment to strengthening the inclusion of women and their participation in public life. I extend my sincere gratitude to Dr. Omar Aliou Touré, President of the ECOWAS Commission, and to the entire management team of the Commission for their unwavering support throughout this process. I wish to pay a special tribute to our sister, the Honorable Dr. Aissata Mahoy, Minister of Gender and Children's Affairs of the Republic of Sierra Leone. During the Sierra Leone's just concluded tenure as chair of ECOWAS, the Honorable Minister provided active and support to this initiative from its inception through its adoption. Her leadership was instrumental in advancing the process and bringing it to fruition. My warm gratitude also goes to the Honorable Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection of the Republic of Liberia, our dear sister, Her Excellency Bime Horace Colley, for her consistent support. I wish to acknowledge with deep appreciation the ECOWAS Female Parliamentarian Association, ECOFEPA, under the leadership of its president, my beloved elder sister and auntie, Her Excellency Senator Chantal Fanny. Through her steadfast commitment to mentorship, knowledge sharing, and the deliberate nurturing of future women leaders, ECOFEPA continues to strengthen the pipeline of women prepared to lead our region into the future. My appreciation also goes to the dedicated staff of the ECOWAS Commission and community institutions, in particular the ECOWAS Gender Development Center, for the diligence and professionalism that has helped to lay the foundation upon which we stand now. I wish to express my sincere appreciation to the United Nations Development Program Regional Bureau for Africa, led by Assistant Secretary General, our dear sister Ahuna Isiakonwa, and to her entire team for their steadfast partnership. As ASG, Ahuna embarks on her new leadership role as the UN Secretary General's Special Advisor on Africa. I extend my warmest congratulations and I wish her every success in this important new chapter of service. I have every confidence that Africa will continue to benefit from her vision, experience, and deep commitment to the continent. Let me also take this opportunity to extend my sincere appreciation to the African Women Leaders Network, AWLIN, and in particular to its co-convener, Her Excellency, my dear elder sister, Madame Bineta Diop, for the network's valued partnership in advancing women's leadership across our continent. Madame Diop's vision, advocacy, and tireless efforts over many years have inspired women across Africa to pursue leadership, overcome barriers, and strive for greatness. Her example reminds us of the difference that determination, consistency, and courage can make, and we remain deeply grateful for her enduring contribution to our common cause. To the institutions, civil society organizations, women leaders, and development partners who believed in this initiative and supported it throughout the process, I offer my sincere gratitude. please allow me to express, on behalf of all of us, our sincere appreciation to the government and of the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for graciously hosting this forum and for the warm hospitality extended to all participants. I also wish to convey my heartfelt appreciation to our dear sister, Her Excellency Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, Honorable Minister of Women Affairs and Social Development of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for her steadfast commitment to advancing the empowerment, participation, and leadership of women in the giant of Africa. Given Nigeria's influence and central role within our community, the progress Nigeria achieves in this area will resonate far beyond its borders. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this forum is being held as my tenure as Vice President of the ECOWAS Commission draws to a close. It is particularly gratifying to conclude my mandate on a note of hope. Hope that the declaration of our leaders will open new pathways for women, strengthen our institutions, and contribute to a more inclusive future for our region. It has been my profound honor to serve the people of West Africa in this leadership capacity. I remain deeply grateful for the confidence placed in me and for the opportunity to contribute in my own way to the continuing journey of our community. I also wish to thank everyone here present and the many colleagues and partners across our region for the support, cooperation, and friendship extended to me throughout my tenure. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen,
Welcome. We are live. City, I'm Haslinda Amin.
And I'm Romain Bostic, live on Bloomberg. This is the UN Town Hall, the next Secretary General, presented by the President of the General Assembly of the United Nations.
To start, here's the President of the UN General Assembly, Annalena Baerbock.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear world citizens.
I am Salma Tabak, television executive producer. I produce programs on both radio and television. I'm a news anchor, a presenter, an announcer on radio. I enjoy what I do because I serve a public service broadcaster. It's a pleasure to work with yourselves. I am Tilly Koma, Head of News and Current Affairs Unit, Zion Broadcasting Corporation. Our news hour now covers several segments. We have entertainment, business, weather, sports, ferry schedule, and human interest stories, not forgetting politics. We are doing all that to keep you people posted on what's happening all over the country. Thanks for being with us at SLBC. Keep blue.